Okay, welcome everyone to Project Wood. This is one of our easier projects. It's going to be a mobile phone holder and it can accommodate many different types of mobile phone. The kit that you're going to get with this is pretty small and light, so postage is not so bad. Basically got a base, got the piece maybe that the mobile phone is going to go on, a stand to kind of hold it up in the air, a little piece to stop it falling off, and two side guides as well to secure the phone on the stand, and we can adjust those to suit your type of phone. So if you're new to the channel, I'd be delighted if you subscribed and liked and shared with your fellow woodworkers. Details of the kits are below in the YouTube video, and also there's a link to the Patreon page where you can get access to these videos plus a cutting list if you don't want to buy the kits from us or you want to use different type of wood. So this is basically make and do from beginning to end, marking out and cutting out and assembly. I'll varnish it and sand it later on in my own time. Also, this is a very fluid project. In other words, I could change things as I go along, and I would encourage you when you're making this mobile phone holder to add your own embellishments or cut off different shapes for corners, as you'll see going along in the video. Make it personal to you, and there's also nothing to stop you from taking the pieces and designing your own mobile phone holder. Maybe the designs that I'm going to do up today might inspire you a little bit. So we'll have a look now and see how we're going to put this together. So I was thinking of a nice stable base, so a nice big piece for the base. This is laminated pine, obviously it needs a bit of sanding, etc. And I was hoping then to have an upright coming up from the back. We'll put an angle on that to suit our phone. And then the main phone holder itself would have a stand on the bottom to stop the phone falling off. And two side pieces. We'll put in some nice designs in these, don't worry. Two side pieces to keep the mobile phone from falling off to the sides. The only other thing we have to be kind of cognizant of is that we get the mobile phone charge lead and have a little bit of a hole somewhere on the base here to allow the cable to come up through. Now I've left my phone and cable of course miles away from here, so I might have to pop out and get those at some stage. So I'm going to start off I think with the base and the upright for holding the mobile phone. So I need to create a joint that will allow that to sit in the center there. Probably looking at a housing joint. We'll keep this simple. This will be going into one of the kind of basic kits. I'm creating a new playlist I think with kind of beginner, intermediate and advanced projects. Again, I teach this every day to kids from 13 to 19, and I would call the kind of kids at 18 to 19 probably intermediate woodworkers. And I'm also hoping to bring some videos here though with very advanced kind of jointing and using exotic timbers and that kind of thing. Okay, so let's get making a joint here on this piece. So that measures almost 130 by 80 by 18. So I want to take kind of a halving joint off the bottom here. So we'll mark our face side and face edge. Again, use a 2H pencil if you have one. Just using the pen because it's easier to see on video. So we'll need to mark the depth of the base onto that, which is also 18 millimeters. And with our tri-square, we'll bring that all the way around. The whole trick with the tri-square is to only allow the brass part to rest on either the face side or face edge, and that makes sure that the lines kind of match up when you go around. I normally have some music on in the background in woodwork, so probably not a good idea for recording. So I hope you see with this project how simple it can be to make something. Just using basic jointing skills and a few basic tools. I mean, you can make these on really expensive saws and mortise machines and pillar drills, etc. But you can make very good projects with simple tools. Okay, so we want to measure across half that, which is 4 centimeters, 40 millimeters. Mark that all the way around. One thing I always notice with kids doing woodwork is that they tend not to want to bring lines all the way around, kind of take the easy way out. PlayStation generation. But you've got to mark all the way around to check that your lines are square. Okay, so we're going to remove this piece here. We get some X's on that there to mark the waist. In a long week teaching, so my voice is kind of sore at the moment. Okay, so we'll remove that piece and that will slot nicely into the back of the base here. Now, we take a wide chisel, I have a 25 millimeter chisel here, and we just scribe the lines. So we're going to indent the grain in the wood all around where the X's are. And that will give us a lovely clean finish with the saw. Okay, for a piece standing up like this, you might want to hold it in your vise. Or if you're doing woodwork for a while, you should have no problem doing it vertically like that. Okay, so we'll get that into the vise and just cut it off as we go along. Okay, so remember with sawing to get the saw on the waist side of the line, which is the right hand side for me here. Nice tenon saw, good and sharp. Spear & Jackson, probably one of the best you can get for a price, and to keep your sharpness very, very well, especially with hardwoods. So thumb up for safety, and cut on the waist side. We use a woodwork vise as a guide to keep the pieces straight, so that should be nice and level there. Again, we're cutting on the left side of this line. Need to let it up a little bit more. So again, with the sawing, don't use small little sawing strokes, because you'll wear out all the teeth in the middle of your saw, and you've got all these beautiful teeth here on the front and back that never get used. So we try and encourage people to use the full length. And if you listen to the sound, you can hear the pitch of the sawing getting higher. So you're getting to the end and you can slow down. So as simple as that, we have made the joint for attaching it into the base. And we'll match up a nice little joint for that in the base in a moment. Now at this stage we can work on the angle that we want the phone to sit at. So this is the back piece for the phone. You can decide that you want a shallow angle or a steep angle. So something, but just measure by eye. Something like 60 degrees is probably okay. So just keep the bottom of the stand up from where this is going to join into the base. So I think something like that looks fine. Put a little mark on the back. Okay. And we bring that all the way along with a ruler and extend it around the back. Put some X's on that. That's going to be waste. And with the tri-square, bring that all the way around. I've got my large tri-square here today. The other one is out in the other workshop. And for small projects, it's not ideal. The normal 20 centimeter tri-square is plenty enough. Okay, and just continue that on the back as well. That will give you a good idea that you know you're sawing straight. And that's pretty much it for that stand piece. So we need to get our bench hook back into the vise, and we'll saw off that angle. We might be able to use this piece for a bit of decoration later on. In other words, just going into scrap. I've been meaning to oil up that vise for a long time. Okay, so that will go into the bench hook, which is this piece here, and I'll give it a little bit of a scribing just to get a nice clean cut along there. Now it's important to take our time cutting this part because the seat piece that the phone is going to sit on is going to be screwed onto this, and if this is not level, the phone won't sit level itself. Okay, so nice and slow with this. Okay, better angle on that there. Okay, so just check when we're that far down that we are on the waist side of the line. And when we're happy with that, we can just continue on. Okay, so this video is going live on Instagram at the moment as well, in case you see me popping over to the camera. We have a few people viewing there. Hello to Kay Koristani. You're very welcome. Okay, so that's our stand piece, and that will have our phone holder attached on later on. Okay, so we've got to join that now down to the bottom, or the base piece. So we need to make a female joint here to allow that to slot in, and it's got to be in the middle as well for it to look good. So we'll face side and face edge this, just in case we need some markings. It's 150 wide, so we've got 75 is the middle. Our wood is is 18 millimeters thick, so we can go 9 millimeters on one side. Put a little face edge on the front just for this piece. Again, you're using pencil, you won't have so much trouble in removing or sanding off all these lines at the end. So the pen is just to make this a little bit easier to see. Okay, so that's 9 millimeters from the center. So you can line up the tri-square with that line and actually mark the thickness of the actual piece of timber going in. And we will draw that with our tri-square all the way around. Now we want to come in the depth of our male joint here, so it's 40 mil. So we'll mark that off the back. On both sides. Now we won't leave this bottom just in that kind of rectangular shape. We will put some angles on the front corners, etc. later on. Okay, so that's going to be waist, waist, and waist here. And now if I remove that, we should be able to fit in our upright. Now I'm not going to do it so tight that it's going to take me 10 minutes kind of chisel it and fit it up, because we're going live here on Instagram. So I'm going to cut it a little bit loose even, and if we have to, we'll put a screw in through the back just to hold it. Which, even if it is tight, we might put a screw in anyway. We want to make this rock solid. We've got a €1,000 phone going to sit on this thing. So we'll scribe that. We'll need 2 chisels here for this. So use the wider chisel for the long lines. You should be able to hear when you're doing this yourself, the wood actually cracking there. So that's the grain getting torn. And that gives you the lovely clean finishes that you get from good woodworking. Okay, now we need a smaller chisel. We'll try and tidy as we go, because very quickly mess builds up on your workstation, which is not good for safety. Now this little bit of scribing here is in the direction of the rings of a tree and the grain, so you don't want to push down too hard. This is an 18mm chisel and the wood is 18mm, so that's perfect. If I was to push down really hard here, it's more than likely that the laminate pine will actually split. Probably not with a hardwood, but with the laminate pine it happens a lot. Okay, so we'll get that cut out. We're going to make 2 saw cuts down the sides, and then we're going to chisel out the bottom piece here as well. Really got to get some oil on that vice. So we're going to stay on the waist side of the line again. On the waist side this side. And we go all the way down. Okay, so I'm probably going a little bit fast just for the video. Normally in a classroom this would take 14 or 15-year-old probably 2 hours to make, to do a good job on it. Now we want to remove the joint in the middle here, so we'll just chisel on the shoulder line here. Again, work over the leg of your bench. It's the strongest part of your table. We'll go nice and gentle here. Okay, so that pops out very easy. Now back into the vise just to clean up the shoulder a little bit. And make sure that's nice and level. A little bit tight, so we'll get a smaller chisel. Little 12mm one here just to clean it off. So very often fitting up a joint, or fettling as we call it, can take a little bit of time. That is an important thing to get right. We'll see now how this fits in here. Not so bad. All joints should really go together by hand, but we'll give that a little tap. Okay, that's pretty good. If you're on the Patreon crew and you just got a cutting list for this and you're using hardwoods, you don't have much to worry about there. Just with pine, you have to be very gentle fitting those up, because it breaks so easily. Even if the temperature in your room or the moisture in your workshop changes, it can actually split the wood. So just something to be mindful of. So that's quite a nice base there. That will take our mobile phone holder on top. But we want to maybe make the bottom look a little bit more decorative. So we're going to take off two little chamfers on the front corner, and maybe 2 centimeter chamfers. Let's remove the stand for a moment. So I'll come back at 2 centimeters from the front corner. And join those up to give us a lovely little angle piece. And repeat on the other side as well. We use our tri-square to speed that up. We always try where possible not to measure and use existing measurements that we have, and that kind of evens everything up as well. So we'll drop that down with an X. And drop that one with an X. Now when you're doing little small chamfers like this, or splays some people like to call them, these are probably one of the only things you don't have to mark all the way around, just on 3 sides, because the saw cut is so small. Go back in the bench. Fight. Okay, position that so we can saw it. Give it a little bit of a scribe as well. saw those off very gently. So you can see that gives a little bit of a better shape to the front, makes it a little bit more modern looking. Again, you could round that off, you could do a squiggly design on the front, you could also do some chamfers on the back. There's so much you can kind of play around with there in terms of your own design. Okay, so we'll have a look then at what will look like the main part for anyone looking at your project, which is the actual stand that the phone will be on. So we'll just reassemble that there for a second. So we want that to sit nicely now onto the angle. Okay, and we also need the bottom piece to hold the phone in place to stop it from falling off. So maybe we'll go with that next. So probably looking here at a 1/3 finger joint on the bottom of the main piece, and that will slot into, take out a 1/3 female piece here on the bottom part. So we'll go face side, face edge here. So this piece is 150 by 120 by 18, and this is 120 by 40 by 18. So you have to decide whether you want to have the male joints on this one or this one here. So I think we'll have one single male on this one, and we'll only have to remove one single female from the bottom piece. So we'll mark the depth, bring it all the way around. Sometimes you need a double face side, face edge, because there's some joints coming from both directions. Doesn't happen a lot, but it does happen. So using your tri-square just against the face side and face edge, the lines will match up when you get around. Clear off a little bit of dust. Okay, so we want to get 3/3 into that, so that's 3 40mm joints. So we'll mark 40 from the left. We'll go 40 from the other side. So you should be left with 40 in the middle. Could be 39, could be 41, depending on the wood. So we'll bring that all the way around. We know that we're going to take that off, so we'll put a big X on it. And we're going to be taking off this side here. So big X on that as well. And all the way around. Big hello there to Scranton Craftworks. Thanks for joining in. You're very welcome. Now again, as I said, these are not very advanced woodwork techniques. I'm used to teaching kids from 13 to 18, so we have to kind of keep it on an appropriate level. And this will be a beginner kit in Project Wood, so it should be suitable for all levels. So we've got 2 fingers there that we need to saw off, and then we'll slot that into the holder piece at the bottom. So a bit of scribing again. As I said, I'm not going crazy on scribing in this video because we're live on Instagram and it will be a very slow process. We'll just do one side. And your scribing go all the way around your waistlines for a nice sharp cut. Okay. So we take our tenon saw again, cutting on the waist side. Especially with pine, you get a beautiful smell when you're sawing. The smell of wood is one of the great joys of actually doing woodwork. And you walk into that workshop in the morning. So we'll saw down on the waist side here again. Just remember with your tenon saw, the teeth cut on the way forward, so when you're drawing back you can let off a little bit of pressure and save your energy. Put a little bit of 3-in-1 oil or WD-40 on the side of your blade on the saw if you want to get rid of the squeaking. Okay, so that is very quickly the joint that we're going to need to join it to the base. And so we need to remove corresponding female joint from this one here. So we're going to mark the depth of the timber, which is 18 again. And we'll bring that all the way around. Do a little face side and face edge again. Now you're working with a very small piece of timber here in the kit, so just take your time with it. Try and get it as accurate as we can. If you're new to woodworking, over the years you'll develop your own ways of doing stuff, and that's perfectly fine. Whatever works. As long as you're safe and producing good products, doesn't really matter. Okay, so using face side and face edge again, we find the lines match up nicely there. Okay. So that's going to slot down here. So we need to mark that male joint onto our piece here. So we're going to level those up. Use a ruler to make sure they are in line with each other. Also use your tri-square as well, which might be a little bit stiffer. Okay, so they're nicely lined up now. And we'll bring the width of the male pin over to the other piece. And again, so I don't have to spend ages fitting this up on the live video, I'm going maybe 0.5 millimeter extra so that it fits in very easily. That may need a screw as a result, but see how we go. Okay, so we'll be removing that piece here so we can actually X that up. And again, that will come across. You see this wood is stamped with made in Finland. Our Irish timber can be a little bit hit and miss depending on the growing season. The timber we get in from Finland seems to be very good quality. Doesn't have a lot of knotting or cups or bows or warping or any defects. We have X's all the way there, they're going to come out. And scribe that as well. As I said before, when you're scribing in the same direction as the grain on the wood or the rings on the tree here, don't push down so hard so you don't split the wood. Also, when you're scribing, keep the flat part of the chisel facing out towards the good wood and the bevels facing in towards the waste. Okay, so a couple of saw cuts here and here, and a little saw cut in the middle because it's such a long joint. It'll relieve the pressure on the chiseling out. We saw all the way down to the waistline, maybe a tiny little bit beyond, just for safety. And a little cut in the middle is optional, but it takes a little bit of pressure off when the chiseling is underway. So a little bit of chiseling to do now. We should get that to fit in nicely. Looks like it's going to be tight. We'll see how we go. So we'll just tap that down with the mallet. Just very carefully now, it's starting to pop out. Okay. Now, that's our rough cutout of the female sector. So we can vertical pair that. We get our chisel and just pair down vertically, just to peel off any bits of wood that stayed on. So a good sharp chisels help. Alternatively, you can level it up with your woodwork vise. Sometimes teenagers find this much easier to do than the vertical pairing. And we can just scoot across. And metal on the vise actually stops us from digging down too far. So you're using the metal and the vice really to keep it all nice and level. So that looks good. Now in our kits you won't be getting wood with stamps, quality stamps on them, so you won't have to sand that off. So let's have a look at this now. This is going to join in here. Okay, so that's a nice fit for a first time. No fettling required. As I say, when you're sawing it out, you could take 0.5 millimeter more if you want an easy fit like that. If it's too loose, it's just a matter of putting a screw in through the back of the male joint. So it's not too bad. If I glue that up, it'll probably hold. My small screw is too big, so I'll just leave that alone for a moment. Okay, so got to put some nice little angles up on the corners here, and that will make the phone holder look a little bit more modern and match the angles on the base as well. It's probably not something we want to do if we get the mobile phone in place and have a look at how far down we can actually take them out. So what we might look at for a moment is the actual fitting of this piece onto our upright. We'll just leave that in place there for a moment, I guess. So the position's really up to yourself. You can have it up really high. Okay, you can have it down sitting actually right on the base. Lots of options there. I'll try and go for somewhere kind of in between. Something like that. So I'll just hold it in place and make a kind of a pen mark at the back where I'm happy, where the top of the stand will be. We can try square that across. Find the middle of that, which is half of 120, which is 60. So it's down along that line that we're going to want to put a pilot hole for the screw. So we'll just reposition that again. Double check everything. Okay. Now the length of the angle here is approximately, let's pop that out again. So the length of the angle is 102. So half of that is 51 millimeters. So we want to come down 51 millimeters from this line here, and that will give us the perfect position for a pilot hole for our screw that's going to attach that onto the back here. Now you could also probably hot melt glue it on, but you're going to have an €800 phone sitting on this. You don't want to take any chances. We can drill a pilot hole through that. So the screws that we have for this one are 4x40mm SPAC screws, and you probably want to use something like a 2mm pilot hole bit. You probably get away with 1.5 or even 1mm with a softwood timber. If you're using hardwood timbers, you probably want to go 2mm minimum. So just drill that straight down. If you have a pillar drill, it would be even more accurate, but for something this small, it's not needed. With a small drill bit like that, you don't want to push down too hard. They break so easily. So you just let the weight of the drill actually work its way down. Just give it a few drills in and out to clean it up. Okay, so that gives us a hole here for our screw to go through, and that will attach itself then onto the back. Okay, so I'm just going to take a look here again. We're going to want to have probably a hole drilled in here so you can get your charger cable up. So that will depend on your phone where the actual hole is placed. So I designed this, I think, for a Hawaii 2019 phone. So I'm going to drill a hole right in the center here of the piece sticking out, and that should be fine for my particular phone. This is where you'll have to get good at kind of designing your own stuff, because your phone is probably different, or you might want to make this on a larger scale for your iPad. So put an X in that box, and that will locate the position for the hole to be drilled. Again, we're dealing with a very narrow piece of timber here, so care is the order of the day. It may split, if so we can glue it back. So we want to drill down through there with our pilot hole bit, and then with progressively larger bits until you get one that allows your charger cable through. So that's our pilot hole. So we're going to crank it up a little bit. We will move up to, I think I have a 4mm bit here, 5mm. So if you just go head on in and drill a big hole, we're just going to split the wood. That's the case with most woods. I'm going to hold that in the vise now, because I want to make sure it's not going to split. Again, if you're making expensive furniture and using expensive wood, you drill in halfway from one side and halfway from the other. And finally, hopefully this is big enough. It's the last size drill I have in this workshop. And I think it suits my charger, but probably not. When I go to fit it, probably need a bigger one. So this is an 8.5mm. Now, because that's such a large bit compared to the thickness of the wood, we're going to go halfway in from one side, halfway from the other, just to get a safe, clear kind of cut from the drill bit. Basically, a drill bit is a rotating saw, so you have to be very careful with it. Okay, so we just move the drill up and down to make sure we clean out all the material inside. So hopefully now that will be a nice enough piece to hold our phone and get our charging cable through. Again, we want to improve the design of this, so we'll put a couple of little chamfers on this as well before we bring the phone in to measure it up. So we had 2mm chamfers or splays on the base. You won't get away with that here because it's such a small piece, so we'll just try 1cm 10mm splays. My poor dog is getting very impatient out there. So by doing kind of 1cm and 1cm on the corner, you get a 45-degree angle. But you can change that to anything you want, or you can round off that corner. Lots of different options you have there. If you have a bell sander, you can put a compound angle on it. Again, always be open to creating your own designs, making your own changes to the Project Wood kits. The videos are merely guides to make the basic shapes, but there's lots of scope for you to put your own kind of personal touch to them. Particularly as well at the end when you're colouring and painting. If you're making this for a child, you could paint it with some colours to match their bedroom or whatever. Okay, so we'll saw those off. It's just amazing the difference little chamfers and little designs make to the overall appearance of your work. I'm going to mark that on the back because it's easier to cut it from this side. These two lines with the tri-square are excellent for showing you whether your saw is going down straight or not. Okay, so that's our finished bottom piece. So now, next stage, we really need to get our mobile phone so we can measure it up for the sides here, and these will actually hold the phone in place. So possibly a good idea to screw on the front to the base at this stage. Again, I got a great fit with that joint, but could come loose depending on heating on your house, etc. So I'm going to put a screw into the back here before we go, just to make sure that stays. And also, even in that short time with the this wood is stored in my outside workshop and we're inside today, so that's already become a little bit loose. So we might even put a screw in back there if we can find one to suit it. So we line that up on the back. Just by eye, make sure this line is parallel with the front. Use a low power screwdriver when you're using pine wood. Okay, just check it out that you're happy that everything's going together good. Even at this stage, it could probably just be used as a mobile phone holder without the supporting sides. We'll put those on. Okay, always with a screw, let it back out. And let it back in so it can actually trap the wood better. Okay, so that's pretty tight. Again, a little bit of glue in here as well later on. There won't be any harm whatsoever. Okay, so just going to pause there now for a moment while I get the phone to measure up for the sides. And people on YouTube can join back in a second. Instagram people, I'll just leave that video running. And back to you in 2 minutes. Okay, so I have a few charging cables here for the phone. So depending on what phone you have, you just basically place it down. And you take the other two pieces. So these are 100mm by 18 by 15. And we're going to get those glued onto the sides here. And we'll put a little bit of design on them as well. Maybe a couple of chamfers just to match the rest of the front of the phone holder. Now we can also put a couple of little chamfers on the top corners here. Just measure it. We can afford to come in probably 1.5 centimeters and take some angles off there as well. So we'll get that done and get these glued on, and that's pretty much it then. Lots of sanding and glue it up and varnishing, and that's pretty much it. So these cables, not so sure they're going to fit through now. No, so I need a slightly bigger drill bit. Probably a 12mm drill bit, but that's only 2mm further out on each side here, so there should be plenty of wood left there to do that. Okay, so just get that sorted. So I'm just going to finish the recording here on the YouTube channel, so hope you enjoy the rest of it. Okay, so we now have the stand and the two pieces ready to go on either side of the phone. And now just to put a couple of little chamfers on the top corner. You can unscrew that. Remove the base. And we'll mark up 1.5 centimeter on the right and left. And on the top, just going to take off little 45-degree chamfers, give it a little bit more of a modern look. So we will remove those two corners. Give them a little bit of a scribe just to get a clean cut. And just saw those off nice and gently. Mark this one on the back, make it easier to cut out. Now it said just to make this nice and secure, we're going to put a screw in from the back here. So we've got to avoid the hole for the cable. So perhaps it would be wiser to put a couple of screws up from these two positions here on the bottom piece. So we'll put an X in there, and the same on the other side. Like at the end of the day, this is going to be holding your expensive phone. You want it to be built well. Needs to be drilled a couple of pilot holes there. grab a couple of more screws. Okay, so that's going to screw in there nicely. This one in here. So if you are using the screws, not much need for glue in this kit. Okay, so it's a nice secure base. Just get that screw now back onto our stand. So we have that screw position from earlier on, we can line that up. Okay, make sure it's nice and level. Okay, so looking well now with all our chamfers. Looks like it could do the job already. Last stage then is you want to attach on your two sides here. So I'm just going to use a gluing technique to do that. So there will be glue in your kit in the normal tubs it comes in. PVA glue. This one here is in this workshop. It's called Arc Waterproof. It's not my usual. So what we'll do here is there'll be some glue put along the back of that piece, and just place it onto your back angle piece, and the same on the other side. And the way that you kind of move the wood with the glue behind it, you'll have seen that in the lid on the jewellery box video, will actually secure the wood in place and you let it dry overnight. So it's not something I want to do now until I have that sanded up, but that's pretty much it. Again, you could put any kind of designs you want on that yourself, you know, round off the top even, put some more chamfers on the back. I like to have a bit of weight on the back of it just to make sure it doesn't fall over. So a few small jobs left to do with that, just to increase the size of the hole here for my charge cable by 4mm. Get it all sanded up, and also I said I was going to put a screw in the back here, so we might as well do that now while we're here. So we want to next just in our little square here. Again, just using pen for demonstration, but make sure when you're using pencil to use it lightly, make life easier in terms of sanding everything off at the end. We'll go right down here. And slightly longer screw. So just pulsing the drill like that gives the screw a chance to grab the wood without splitting it. Okay, so that pretty much can hold itself together without glue if you like. After you sand it up, you can put some glue in the joints as in previous videos. Again, these are optional, the sides, you can decide where you want to put those. But that should look good. Just put the phone into it there now for a second to have a look. So that will fit in nicely there now. Again, I would glue on those side pieces just to keep them in place. Could put small screws in from the back either. And our charge cable then will come up through here. And that is your wooden mobile phone holder.